Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel, and I post videos all about health, fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. I just filmed a video all about 2021 summer lookbook, fashion trends, and just some outfits that I am excited about. And be sure to check that video out if that's something that interests you as well. But enough of the rambling. Let me dive into today's video. Today's video is actually going to be all about the dark side of Hollywood. We're going to be focusing on body transformations from actors and actresses and the reality of these transformations. You know, is this something that people are able to attain naturally? You know, do they just have amazing trainers, nutritionists, and doctors supporting them that they're able to get this crazy transformation in under a year? Or are they taking steroids? And if they're taking steroids, is there anything really wrong with it? All of these things we'll be talking about, and I'd love to hear your opinions on the matter in the comment section, so don't forget to comment. But to get started, I'm sure you remember Cavill from Man of Steel, Hemsworth from Thor, Jackman from the X-Men, he was actually Wolverine, Pitt in Troy, Bale in Batman, of course, and Butler from the movie 300. All of these actors had incredible body transformations from the day they were given the role and they knew that they would start to, they would be on the big screen in the next year or so. They started their body transformation and they started, I'm sure, their hard work with their nutritionists, doctors, and personal trainers. And if you ask any of these people, they'll all say they had amazing trainers, they were following strict diets, and that's how they got such incredible results in such a short amount of time. But did they really do this naturally, or did they have the help of steroids? That's something that I wanted to answer today or speculate on because, I am just one individual and obviously I don't really know if these people took steroids or not. It's just something I'm going to be inferring based on their results, the nutrition that they followed, and whatnot. This idea of being big screen ready or needing to change your body so drastically to fit these roles is something that has become reality. It's become a standard, and it's something that obviously directors put pressure on actors and actresses to achieve. And it's been like that for a long, long time. If you remember, what's her name? She was the star of Wizard of Oz. She was, I believe, only 16 years old. I'll fact check myself later, but she was very young, and they actually had her, the directors prescribed for her to start smoking cigarettes so that she would lose weight for the role. So this is something that's been around for a long time. And that movie, the first color movie ever, it's a pretty old movie. So, who's really to blame for this? Is it, Hollywood directors? Is it superhero comic book artists, since they draw these superheroes in such a manner? Is it, the creators of Barbie, Ken, dolls, as well as action figure dolls? Or is it diet culture? Or is it something even bigger? Maybe it's everything. All of them combined have shaped us into expecting these monstrous men and slim women with huge breasts and skinny waists on the big screen. This is a reality. This is norm. It's normal to see this sort of thing and you expect it. As well as, the airbrushed skin, the perfect smiles. It's a beauty standard that we've all grown to love. I'm not sure, but we've definitely gotten used to it. You see it everywhere you look. So the first thing I wanted to address was, how common steroid use actually is in 2021. So here's a couple examples of how widespread the problem has actually become. So how common is steroid use in 2021? According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, they estimate that more than 500,000 8th and 10th graders are now using an increased amount of steroids in this day and age. And they also estimate that these numbers just increase as people continue on through their schooling and into college and into, their 20s. The estimates of people using it is more than 500,000. So another study indicates that 1,084,000 Americans, or about 0.5% of the adult population, is in fact using anabolic steroids. And the final statistic I wanted to highlight would be that in the 18 to 34 age group, about 1% is estimated to be using steroids in 2021. So it's pretty common. I mean, that's a small fraction of our population, and that is, specifically relating to Americans for the most part. But that's a lot of people to be injecting themselves with a drug, all because they want to look better. I'm sure even less of the, 1% are actually competing in things like bodybuilding, in which steroid use is almost a necessity if you want to win. Most of those people are doing it for aesthetic reasons and for personal appearance and, quality of life. And I honestly don't see any problem with people doing this. It is something that's their choice at the end of the day. Everyone's body is their choice. So no issue with it, but it's quite interesting how common it's become. What are anabolic steroids? So, according to drugabuse.gov, anabolic steroids are synthetically produced variants of a naturally occurring male hormone, testosterone. Both males and females have testosterone in their bodies, and their bodies produce this hormone. Males obviously find this in their testes, and females in their ovaries and other tissues. The full name for this class of drugs is androgenic, which means promoting masculine characteristics, anabolic, which is tissue-building, steroids, which is the class of drugs. So, how much muscle building power do steroids really have? Can you get incredibly buff just by taking steroids, or does it take equal amount of work? Many people, I feel, are under the impression that when you take steroids, you don't need to do anything else. You simply inject yourself with the steroids and the muscle building happens by itself, which is not the case at all. It actually takes incredible amounts of energy, amounts of weightlifting and work that go into these workouts, and as well as diet, to receive, or to achieve results that we often see on the big screen or even in muscle building competitions. So according to researchers at the Maastricht University, they conducted an extensive review of literature on anabolic steroids. And they found that the average muscle gains in people engaging in resistance training and using anabolic steroids mostly ranged from between 2 to 5 kilograms over 10 weeks. So the largest amount of muscle growth they found in these groups was around 7 kilograms over a 6-week period. So when we put that in contrast with the average newbie male exercising, weightlifting individual who is eating the average diet and not taking any anabolic steroids, they tend to gain about 20 to 30 pounds of muscle throughout their entire first year. Putting that in contrast with the 15.5 pounds of muscle you're able to achieve within just the first 6 weeks if you are on anabolic steroids. So that means that you're nearly doubling the achievable amount of muscle when taking steroids along with, resistance training. So another study that I'd like to highlight was one that followed a specific elite bodybuilder who he uses steroids for about 4 weeks of a 12-month or year-long period, And during that year, he was able to gain 15 total pounds of muscle, which is quite dramatic considering his level of training, experience, and conditioning. It's something that many people, I'm not sure, are aware of, but when you participate in resistance training, there's a thing called newbie gains. I mentioned it earlier. When you're new to working out, to resistance training, weightlifting, if you will, you gain a lot more muscle a lot quicker than the average person will gain once they've been weightlifting for many years in a row. So an elite bodybuilder who's probably been weightlifting for about 5, maybe even 10 years, for someone like that to be able to put on 15.5 pounds of muscle in just 1 year is unheard of for a natural bodybuilder. And that's why that 4-week of anabolic steroid use is something we like to highlight, or I wanted to highlight for you all to kind of share what sort of drastic difference it can make, even in just a 4-week dosage. The final study I'd like to highlight was conducted by researchers at McLean Hospital, and this study involved the analysis of 157 different male physiques. These included, natural bodybuilders, elite bodybuilders, strong men. About half of them actually use the steroids on a regular basis, and 2/3 of them had used steroids at some point in their life, and about 1/4 of them had never used steroids at all. So what research found in this study was that the average steroid user had about a 25 FFMI, and your FFMI is fat-free mass index. So they had about a 25 when it comes to fat-free mass index. But the average non-user only had about a 22. So the most muscular steroid-enhanced physique clocked in at around a 32, and the best drug-free physique only got to a 25. Something I wanted to highlight, as it's quite interesting how different, the steroids can really change your body and how drastically it can improve somebody's physique, as well as, how much fat they're holding on their persons. The next thing I wanted to talk about was actually the possible physical and psychological side effects of taking steroids. This is something I like to highlight in all of my videos. I think it's important to discuss the negative effects these sort of things have on the human body, and why, they're illegal, and why they shouldn't be so common in this day and age. Yet they are. So some of the physical side effects include high blood cholesterol levels, which could lead to cardiovascular or heart problems, severe acne, thinning of your hair or even baldness, poor fluid retention, so you're not going to be having as much water as you should, or you won't be able to hold in as much water, high blood pressure, liver disorders. Steroids are known to cause dramatic damage to your liver, and people that do take them are often completely void of any alcohol, as we know alcohol also damages somebody's liver. And when people pair the two, or even another drug, it's often, deadly. Obviously, actors and actresses are made aware of this stuff, and if they're put on, steroid dosage by a nutritionist, physician, whoever it may be, they're surely taking precautions to avoid any sort of detrimental damage to their body. Steroids also can affect pregnancy if you were a female taking them, and they can have damage to your sexual and reproductive organs. Some of the possible psychological effects or disturbances that steroid use can have include mood swings. It could be manic-like symptoms leading to potential violence. Also impaired judgment stemming from feelings of invincibility, depression, extreme irritability. People often say or joke about or meme about people having roid rage in the gym. So that's actually something that can happen. You can have extreme irritability and rage, nervousness, depression, delusions, hostility, and aggression. And some of the long-term effects of users of HGH are shown to have a propensity to an increased risk of cancer, as well as diabetes and heart failure. So, now that we've talked about steroids, about what they are, about what they do to your body, and the ability to put on muscle while using them, I wanted to discuss how to tell if an actor is on steroids. So some of the giveaways or, things that would be a telltale for them being on them are the speed in which a certain actor has gained muscle or lost fat for a movie role. We often hear outrageous numbers like gaining 20 plus pounds of muscle in just a few months, all while staying thin and even reducing body fat. This is highly, interesting because to be able to put on so much muscle, you would need to be eating such a high level of food for, a natural amount of weight to be brought on. And so it often would be, impossible for somebody to actually stay thin while putting on such a large amount of muscle mass. These gains, that I just mentioned, 20 plus pounds of muscle in a few months, it's impossible without the use of steroids, point blank, period. You can't do that. If you're brand new to lifting, I mentioned this earlier, and you're drug-free, you have those newbie gains, the average person gets about 0.5 extra pounds of muscle per week. And that's if you're doing, superb. You are working out 5-6 days a week and you're working out hard, you are eating amazing, 0.5 is the average, and if you are doing everything perfectly, you might gain 1 pound of muscle a week. And the same goes for losing weight. If you are doing everything right, on average, the healthy way to be losing weight, working out and eating healthy, you'll lose about 1 pound of weight a week. That's, healthy weight loss. So if you've been weightlifting regularly for several years, in comparison to those newbie gains I mentioned, the average person, is lucky to put on 3 to 5 pounds an entire year versus that initial, newbie gains, like maybe 1 pound a week. And that's, consistent, intense training. So if these things, are not lining up with what you see, and they typically aren't when it comes to superhero actors, Batman, any of those people I mentioned earlier, although I do not know if any of them are on steroids, it's easy to speculate they might be. Celebrities who have been open about their steroid use, though, are people like Joe Rogan. He is a UFC commentator, and he also has a podcast, and as well as a stand-up comedian. But yeah, he's been open about his steroid use. He said, here's a quote where he mentioned, I take testosterone replacement therapy and have been doing it for almost 10 years. So that's someone who's been very open with it, and in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. I quite prefer people to be open about it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is another actor who has been incredibly open about this and forthcoming. He was a former WWE superstar and now is mainly an actor. He said, yeah, I tried it in 2019, and I know there's been various other interviews where he's gone more in depth into using steroids. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a former, Mr. Olympia, as well as an actor and the former governor of California, is open about his steroid use. He has gone so far as to say, I have no regrets about using steroids. Back in the day, he did it under doctor supervision, and it was something that was new since he's a pretty old guy. He was kind of testing things out, and he did it under doctor supervision, so there was no concerns for his health. Don't blame him there. Another person I'd like to talk about, Sylvester Stallone. I'm sure you've heard of him. He was actually in the news the last week because he had some crazy video of him lifting 45 pounds without breaking his wrists. Fake weights, but he, was the star of Rambo. He also got caught in an Australian airport back in 2008 carrying a ton of bottles of HGH, and later acknowledged that he's been taking them for years, which, you know, it's a bummer that that's how this had to come out into the light, but I don't think it's that far-fetched that far more actors than anyone really knows are taking steroids. Some other people, you know, that I mentioned earlier, Cavill from Man of Steel, Hemsworth, Jackman, Pitt, Bale, Butler, all these people are possibly taking steroids, but, you know, who really knows? I'm just one person. I can't say for a fact that they are. But I'll show some before and after photos of each one, and just let me know if you think they're taking steroids. So here's a before and after for Cavill, the guy who played Man of Steel. Here's Hemsworth before he was in Thor. And after, here's Hugh Jackman from playing Wolverine before and after. Here's Pitt, who played Choi before and after. Here's Christian Bale before and after. And here's Butler from 300 before and after. So all these people had drastic, you know, transformations, or maybe they didn't. Maybe it was all natural. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you think any of them took steroids, or who you think did versus who you think didn't. I'm curious to hear your opinions. All right, so to really conclude here, I just wanted to say, you know, personally, I don't have any issue with steroid use, and most of these actors or even actresses probably do it under the supervision of doctors who are completely, you know, making sure they do everything correctly and follow a strict diet, you know, no alcohol or any other drugs that might damage their livers even more than the steroids would. And so it's probably the safest way to do it. But what's scary is the immense amount of young men in America that are doing it on a regular basis. You know, people that you just see in your high school classroom who are probably taking steroids because they're self-conscious and they compare themselves to these big screen actors. And it starts to feel like that's the norm. That's what's attractive. That's what they want to achieve to become a real man. And it's a standard that is honestly just unnatural and impossible to reach as an average person. And that pressure can often be too hard for young men, and so then they turn to steroids. And steroid use is the most common drug used in all of America. I will have to fact check that, but I know I read that somewhere in my research and it was pretty mind-blowing. It's pretty crazy, and it's more those people that I think we're all concerned for, and those are the people that are really suffering here. When it comes to being an actor or actress, mostly actors, who, you know, they have these crazy strong incentives like multi-million-dollar paydays that they're getting for the roles they're playing. They have the support of doctors, nutritionists, personal trainers who are helping them through doing these sort of things, providing the diet, providing the workouts, providing all of these things, and providing the safest form of, you know, steroids they can probably get their hands on, as well as, you know, another incentive to do it would be fame. You know, they're on tight schedules to get lean and to get bigger, and if they don't do it, they might not be given the role. They might lose the chance to work in these movies. And again, they have some of the best doctors and nutritionists and personal trainers in the world, and these people are going to help them avoid all possible side effects. So the only real disincentive for actors to not take steroids would be the stigma and the potential embarrassment of if it came out. I know that could be a huge problem for Hollywood directors, I'm sure, if they had it come out that, you know, Superman uses steroids to achieve that body. I think that the press would have a heyday. So that's really the only negative when it comes to this sort of thing, which is pretty crazy. So I don't really blame any actor for taking steroids. I mean, wouldn't you do it if you had a multi-million-dollar deal riding on it? You probably would. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it's a bit different than some of the other nutrition-based videos I've put together, but it was something that I found really interesting. Alright, well, I will catch you guys in the next one, and if you want to come on this little video adventure with me, definitely hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now!